The sun cast long shadows across the Arizona territory as Bloodhawk, the fiercest Apache warrior of the White Mountain Band, lay pinned against ancient rock. The mountain lion's eyes, amber with hunger, reflected his certain death. No knife, no escape. The great warrior had finally met his match. Then came the impossible. A small settler boy, no more than 10 summers old, armed with nothing but his father's hunting rifle, too heavy for his thin arms. One shot echoed through the canyon. The lion fell. 2 worlds, forever separate, suddenly connected through a child's courage. What would compel a boy to risk everything for his people's greatest enemy? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The Cooper homestead stood 3 miles from Juniper Creek, a struggling collection of wooden structures against the vast Arizona landscape. Samuel Cooper, Sam to everyone who knew him, had just turned 10 last month. With no celebration, save for the extra strip of venison his father had dried special, Sam wiped sweat from his brow, shoulders aching from hauling water from the creek. His father's voice called from the half-plowed field, "Boy, them chickens still need feeding." Jacob Cooper was a tall man, beard streaked with gray despite being only 35. His weathered Union Army canteen hung always at his belt, a reminder of battles fought long before this daily war against the unforgiving land. "Yes, sir," Sam replied, changing direction toward the small chicken coop. The rooster, ornery as always, pecked at Sam's hand as he scattered feed. "Stop that, General," Sam muttered. His father named all roosters General, claiming they were too full of themselves, just like them boys with stars on their shoulders. Inside their modest cabin, Sam ran his hand along his mother's rocking chair. 2 years gone now, taken by fever that came swift and merciless. The chair remained exactly where she'd left it, her worn Bible still on the seat. Jacob never moved it, never sat in it, but sometimes Sam would catch him staring at it in the evenings. "You still got her eyes," Jacob had told him once, voice rough with a rare tenderness. Same color as the sky just before sunset. Sam's mother had taught him about the local plants, which could heal, which could harm. His small collection of dried herbs hung from the kitchen rafters, something his father tolerated with quiet respect. Apaches coming down from the mountains again, Jacob announced that evening as they ate a simple supper of beans and cornbread. "Simmons lost 2 cattle last week. Wallace says cavalry's sending more men." Sam nodded. Having heard such warnings his entire life, you see any sign of 'em, you run straight home. You hear, "They ain't like us. They'd as soon scalp you as look at you." Yet the stories never quite matched what Sam observed when traders came through with their wares. He'd seen Apache from a distance, proud, purposeful people. Not the devils from Fireside Tales. "You listening, boy?" "Yes, sir." "Run home if I see 'em." Jacob sighed, his calloused hand briefly touching Sam's shoulder. "I already buried your mother. Don't make me bury you too." The next morning, Jacob handed Sam his old single-shot rifle. "Going hunting," he announced. "Ground's too dry for planting today anyway." The rifle, a Remington, was far too heavy for Sam's thin arms, but he'd been learning to shoot since he was 7. Still, Jacob carried it most of the way as they tracked through the foothills, only passing it to Sam when they spotted rabbit sign. "Remember, breathe out slow when you squeeze," Jacob instructed. His voice lowered to a whisper. They separated briefly, Jacob following one game trail while Sam checked another. The mountain's shadow stretched long across the rocky terrain when Sam heard it, a sound unlike any he'd heard before. Part growl, part scream. His heart hammered against his ribs as he crept forward, rifle clutched in sweaty hands. Through a gap in the boulders he saw them, a massive mountain lion, tawny and terrible, crouched to spring at a man pinned against the rocks. But not just any man. The distinctive headband, the painted symbols on bare arms, Apache. Sam froze. Everything his father had taught him said to turn away, to let nature take its course. One less Apache meant safer settlements, safer homesteads, safer families. The warrior's eyes showed no fear, only a calm acceptance of his fate. His hand reached for a knife that wasn't there. The mountain lion's muscles bunched, ready to pounce. Sam raised the rifle. It was heavier than he remembered, the stock pressing painfully into his shoulder. His mother's voice seemed to whisper in his ear, "All God's creatures deserve mercy." "Samuel!" The rifle's report echoed across the canyon like thunder. The mountain lion collapsed, blood blooming across its chest for one eternal moment. The Apache warrior and the settler boy stared at each other across the cooling body of the mountain lion. Distance, culture, language, everything separated them except the single irrefutable truth. One had saved the other's life. Sam's hands trembled. The warrior slowly stood, his gaze never leaving Sam's face. The boy turned and ran. Taza, known as Bloodhawk to the white settlers, moved like shadow through the mountain pines. 28 summers had hardened his body into something as unyielding as the land itself. His reputation among both his people and the White Eyes was built on strength that seemed to know no limit. Around his neck hung a simple leather cord with a single eagle talon. His first kill at 12. Blessed by his grandfather, marking the day he earned his place among the warriors. The old ways said a man's strength flowed from his first true hunt. The Apache camp lay nestled between protective rock formations, hidden from prying eyes. 36 dwellings, wickiups of arched poles covered with brush and hides, formed a circle around the central fire pit where the council gathered. Women worked hides and prepared food, while children ran in games of their own making. Warriors maintained weapons or returned from hunting parties with fresh game. The White Eyes moved closer each season, muttered Ishtar, Bloodhawk's cousin and trusted friend. Their fort grows. More wagons come. Bloodhawk nodded but said nothing. As son of Chief Grey Wolf, his words carried weight. He chose them carefully, sparingly. Grey Wolf sat outside his dwelling, larger than the others to accommodate council meetings. Though 60 summers had bent his back, his eyes remained sharp as obsidian. The white streaks in his hair had earned him his name long ago. "My son," Grey Wolf acknowledged as Bloodhawk approached. "The hunting goes well?" "The deer are plentiful in the North Valley," Bloodhawk replied, presenting strips of dried venison. "The streams run clear." The old chief nodded, accepting the offering. His fingers, still strong despite their gnarled appearance, worked a piece of rawhide into a complex knot. "Lieutenant Wallace sends word. He wishes another talk." Bloodhawk's jaw tightened. "His talks are empty wind, perhaps, but we listen to the wind to know when storms approach." Grey Wolf set aside his work. "The tribal council has spoken. The young men wish to fight. The old men counsel patience. I have decided you will lead our hunters northward for one turning of the moon, away from the white settlements, and if they advance further while we hunt," the chief's eyes revealed nothing, "then we will know their true intentions." Bloodhawk bowed his head in acceptance, though frustration burned in his chest. 10 warriors had been lost in the past year alone. Some to soldiers' bullets, others to white men's diseases that the medicine man couldn't fight. Their territory shrank with each passing season. In his dwelling, Bloodhawk prepared for the solitary scouting mission he would undertake before leading the hunting party north. His most treasured possession lay wrapped in soft buckskin, a carved stone amulet passed down through 7 generations, depicting the thunderbird spirit that watched over their people. The medicine man, Silent Owl, had blessed it when Bloodhawk's mother walked to the spirit world 5 winters past. As the camp settled into evening, Silent Owl approached. The ancient medicine man moved with surprising agility, despite having seen nearly 80 summers. "I have dreamed," the old man stated simply. Bloodhawk waited. Silent Owl's dreams were never dismissed. The mountain cat and the eagle danced together. "The small becomes great. The enemy becomes brother," Bloodhawk frowned. "What does this mean, grandfather?" Silent Owl's weathered face revealed nothing. "You will know when it finds you." Dawn found Bloodhawk already miles from camp, tracking deer sign along the ridges that marked the boundary between Apache hunting grounds and territories the white settlers considered theirs. Such invisible lines meant nothing to the animals they both hunted. He spotted the mountain lion tracks near midday, unusually large, pressing deep into the soft earth. A worthy challenge. Food for the camp and a pelt that would bring honor. He followed with the patience of a born hunter. The big cat led him on a winding path through increasingly unfamiliar terrain. Bloodhawk realized he had crossed into the area where white settlers sometimes hunted, but the pursuit had engaged his warrior's pride. He would not turn back. When the mountain lion suddenly emerged from behind a rock formation, Bloodhawk reached for his knife, only to find the sheath empty, lost somewhere along the difficult tracking route. For the first time in his adult life, terror gripped him as the massive predator crouched, muscles bunching beneath its tawny coat. In that moment, Bloodhawk understood he was no longer the hunter. 3 days passed before Bloodhawk appeared at the edge of the Cooper property. Sam spotted him first, a silhouette against the setting sun, motionless as the rocks themselves. The boy dropped his armload of kindling, heart pounding against his ribs. "Pa!" Sam's voice cracked. "Pa, he's here!" Jacob Cooper emerged from the barn, rifle already in hand. His face hardened as he positioned himself between his son and the Apache warrior. "Get inside, Sam." "But Pa—" "Now, boy." Sam hesitated, then slipped behind his father but remained on the porch, one hand clutching the doorframe. Bloodhawk stood perfectly still, hands empty and visible at his sides. A leather pouch hung from his belt, decorated with intricate beadwork that caught the fading sunlight. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his right hand, palm outward. Jacob kept his rifle trained on the warrior's chest. "What do you want?" Bloodhawk took one careful step forward, then another. Jacob tensed but held his position. "That's far enough," he warned. The Apache stopped. With methodical movements, he removed the beaded pouch from his belt and placed it on the ground. From it, he withdrew a small object that glinted in the sunset, a silver brooch in the shape of an eagle studded with turquoise stones. Sam gasped softly. Even from the porch, he recognized its craftsmanship, unlike anything he'd seen at the trading post. Bloodhawk placed the brooch atop the pouch, then stepped back, his dark eyes never leaving Jacob's. "Pa," Sam whispered. "I think it's a gift, or a trick," Jacob replied, but doubt had crept into his voice. Bloodhawk gestured toward Sam, then touched his own chest, and finally made a sweeping motion with his arm that encompassed the sky. The meaning was clear even across the language barrier, a debt to the heavens. "He's saying thank you," Sam said, moving closer to his father's side. "For saving him from the mountain lion." Jacob's grip on his rifle tightened. "You don't know that." "I do," Sam insisted. "Look at him, Pa. He came alone." "No weapons." Bloodhawk reached slowly to his belt, where an empty knife sheath hung. He pointed to it, then made a slicing motion across his own throat before shaking his head. "The cat would have killed him if I hadn't shot it," Sam translated. "He owes me his life." A tense silence stretched between them. Finally, Jacob lowered his rifle slightly, not enough to surrender his advantage, but enough to signal a temporary truce. "Tell him to take his trinket and go," Jacob said. "We're square." Sam stepped forward despite his father's hissed warning. The boy pointed to the brooch, then made a returning gesture toward Bloodhawk. The Apache warrior shook his head firmly. He touched his chest, then pointed to Sam, repeating the gesture 3 times, "I think," Sam said slowly. "He's saying the debt isn't paid yet." Bloodhawk nodded, as if understanding, then raised 3 fingers. 3 days, Jacob interpreted grimly. "He'll be back in 3 days." With a final solemn nod, Bloodhawk backed away, maintaining eye contact until he reached the tree line. Only then did he turn and disappear into the gathering darkness. Jacob immediately grabbed Sam by the shoulders. "Are you hurt? Did he threaten you before? Why didn't you tell me about the mountain lion?" "I'm fine, Pa," Sam insisted. "And I did tell you I went hunting. You told me you missed a rabbit, not that you shot a cat off an Apache." Sam looked down. "I was scared you'd be mad." Jacob ran a hand through his graying hair. "Mad? Boy, I'd have been—" His voice trailed off as he pulled Sam roughly against his chest in a rare embrace. "You could have been killed, but I wasn't," Sam said into his father's shirt. And neither was he. Later that night, After Jacob had carefully examined the silver brooch and declared it wasn't likely to be cursed, they sat at their small table. The gift rested between them like a living thing, its turquoise eyes seeming to watch their conversation. "The Murphy place is only half a day's ride," Jacob said. "Sarah would take you in until this blows over." Sam shook his head stubbornly. "I'm not leaving. This isn't a game, Sam. That's Bloodhawk himself, the fiercest warrior in the White Mountain Band. He's killed a dozen settlers. Then why didn't he kill us today?" Sam challenged. "He came to say thank you, Pa." Jacob stared at the brooch. "Apache don't think like us. Their ways are different." "Maybe," Sam admitted, but he still didn't want to die. The next morning, Jacob rode to town, returning with grim news. "Word's spreading. Simmons saw the Apache approaching our place. Wallace is asking questions." Sam swallowed hard. "What did you tell him?" "That I ran him off," Jacob said quietly. "But Wallace won't believe that for long." The Apache camp stirred with whispers as Bloodhawk returned. Children paused their games to watch him pass. Warriors nodded respectfully, but questions lurked behind their eyes. Word had already spread. The undefeated Bloodhawk had faced death and been saved by a white settler's child. Grey Wolf waited by the sacred circle, where 13 stones had marked their council grounds for generations. Each stone represented one of the original families that had formed their band. The largest, a weathered granite boulder carved with ancient symbols, belonged to the chief's bloodline. "You have seen the boy," Grey Wolf stated, his voice betraying nothing of his thoughts. Bloodhawk knelt before his father. "I have honored our ways. The life debt is acknowledged." The old chief studied his son. "And the father? He fears for his son, as any father would." Grey Wolf nodded thoughtfully. "The council must hear of this." "Ishtar, summon the elders." As darkness fell, 13 fires burned within the stone circle. The tribal council gathered. 7 elders, 3 war chiefs, Silent Owl, the medicine man, and Nalin Kute, who spoke for the women. Grey Wolf and Bloodhawk completed the circle. Bloodhawk faced them all, his spine straight, his voice unwavering as he recounted the encounter with the mountain lion and the boy's unexpected intervention. Mako, oldest of the war chiefs, spoke first. His face was a map of battle scars, his left ear missing from an ancient conflict. "This boy has seen our hunting grounds. He knows where to find you. The white soldiers could follow." "He did not follow me," Bloodhawk countered. "He ran away. Today he runs away. Tomorrow he leads soldiers," Mako insisted, fingering the bone-handled knife at his belt. "One white child is a small price for the safety of our people." Nalingte shook her head, the shell ornaments in her hair clicking softly. The boy showed courage beyond his years. "Would you repay bravery with blood?" "I would protect our people," Mako replied. Silent Owl had remained motionless throughout the exchange. Now he leaned forward, the firelight casting deep shadows across his ancient face. From around his neck he removed a small leather pouch and emptied its contents into his palm. A handful of smooth white pebbles and a single black stone. The council fell silent. The stones of prophecy were rarely consulted, used only for matters that would shape the tribe's future. The medicine man cast the stones onto the bare earth before him. They scattered, forming a pattern that only he could interpret. Silent Owl studied them for long moments before speaking. "The small one stands between worlds," he pronounced. "Neither enemy nor brother, yet both. The eagle's path crosses the wolf's trail." He looked directly at Bloodhawk. "My dream finds its meaning." Grey Wolf considered these words carefully. "What do the stones counsel?" "Patience," Silent Owl replied. "The pattern is still forming." Ishtar, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. "My cousin has given his word to honor the life debt. Would you have him break this sacred promise?" "I would have him put the tribe before his pride," Mako retorted. "It is not pride," Bloodhawk said firmly. "It is honor. Without honor, we are no better than the White Eyes who break their treaties." Grey Wolf raised his hand for silence. The council quieted immediately. "3 paths lie before us," the chief declared. "We can strike at the settlers to remove this threat. We can ignore the debt and withdraw deeper into the mountains. or we can watch and wait to see what this unusual bond may bring." He touched the worn copper medallion hanging at his chest, a gift from his own father, passed down through 4 generations of chiefs. Its surface bore the image of a wolf's head, once sharp but now softened by decades of handling. "My father taught me that wisdom often lies in patience," Grey Wolf continued. "Bloodhawk will observe the boy and his father. 4 warriors will accompany him, but remain hidden. No harm will come to the child unless he proves false." Mako frowned, but did not challenge the chief's decision directly. "And if the white soldiers come while we watch and wait?" "Then we will know the boy's true nature," Grey Wolf answered. "Prepare yourselves. The coming days will reveal much." As the council dispersed, Silent Owl approached Bloodhawk privately. "The black stone fell closest to your feet," he murmured. "Your path is changing, grandson. The boy has already altered your destiny. How can a white child change my path?" Bloodhawk asked. Silent Owl smiled enigmatically. "The smallest stone can change the course of the mightiest river." Before dawn, Bloodhawk selected his 4 companions, Ishtar and 3 younger warriors, who moved like shadows and could remain motionless for hours. They would watch the Cooper homestead in shifts, learning the daily patterns of father and son. "Remember," Bloodhawk instructed them, "the boy is not to be harmed. He is under my protection." Ishtar nodded gravely. "And if the father threatens you when you return?" Bloodhawk checked his newly crafted knife. "Then I will show him that I could have killed him many times over, yet chose not to." 4 days had passed since Bloodhawk's visit, and life at the Cooper homestead had settled into an uneasy rhythm. Sam found himself constantly scanning the tree line, both hoping for and dreading the Apache warrior's return. Jacob spent more time than usual cleaning his rifle, the metallic click of the loading mechanism punctuating the evening silence. Sam was feeding the chickens when he heard approaching hoofbeats. His father emerged from the barn, rifle in hand, but relaxed slightly when the riders came into view. 3 cavalry soldiers, their blue uniforms dusty from the trail, led by Lieutenant James Wallace. Wallace sat tall in his saddle, his brass buttons gleaming despite the dust. The lieutenant's polished spurs, sterling silver with elaborate rowels, caught the sunlight as he dismounted. Unlike the simple equipment of the enlisted men, Wallace's spurs marked him as an officer from a wealthy Eastern family, a man with ambitions beyond this remote posting. "Cooper," Wallace nodded curtly. "The boy here too?" "Good." Jacob set his rifle against the fence post, close enough to reach if needed. "Lieutenant, what brings you out this way?" "Reports of Apache activity." Wallace removed his gloves, slapping them against his thigh. "Simmons says he saw Bloodhawk himself approaching your property 4 days ago." Sam concentrated on scattering feed, avoiding the lieutenant's sharp gaze. "That right, Cooper?" Wallace pressed. "You have a visit from the Apache?" Jacob shrugged. "Saw one watching the place. Fired a warning shot. He disappeared." Wallace's eyes narrowed. "Just one. You know which one?" "All look the same from a distance," Jacob replied evenly. The lieutenant made a skeptical sound. "Simmons was certain it was Bloodhawk." "Simmons sees Apache behind every tree," Jacob countered. "Last month, he swore Chief Cochise himself was stealing his chickens. Turned out to be a coyote." Several of the soldiers chuckled, quickly silenced by Wallace's glare. "We're establishing a permanent outpost near Juniper Creek," Wallace announced. 2 companies of infantry arriving next week. "Colonel Matthews is determined to solve the Apache problem once and for all." Sam's head snapped up at this, but his father's warning look kept him silent. "Solve it how?" Jacob asked carefully. "By removing them to the reservation at San Carlos. Those who resist will be dealt with accordingly." Wallace's hand rested meaningfully on his holstered pistol. "Bloodhawk's band is our primary target. Intelligence suggests they're camped within 20 miles of here." Jacob nodded noncommittally. "Good luck finding them. Those mountains have 1,000 hiding places, which is why we need cooperation from settlers like yourself," Wallace replied, his tone hardening. "Any information about Apache movements, camp locations, water sources, it all helps." "I'm just trying to farm my land," Jacob said. "Don't have time for tracking Indians." Wallace studied him for a long moment before turning to Sam. "What about you, boy? Seen any Apache around here?" Sam felt his father's eyes boring into him. "No, sir," he managed. "Just been doing my chores." The lieutenant didn't look convinced. "Well, if either of you remembers something important, I expect to hear about it immediately. Harboring information is dangerously close to treason." As Wallace turned to leave, he paused. "One more thing. There's a town meeting tomorrow at Juniper Creek. Military presence is making some folks nervous. I'll be explaining our operations, answering questions. I expect all settlers to attend." He looked pointedly at Jacob. "All of them." After the soldiers departed, Jacob grabbed Sam's shoulder. "Inside now." Once the door closed behind them, Jacob paced the small cabin. "This is getting dangerous, Sam. Wallace suspects something." "But we didn't lie," Sam protested. "Not really. A lie of omission is still a lie." Jacob sighed, running a hand through his hair. "And now we're caught in the middle." Sam fingered the silver brooch, which he'd kept hidden in his pocket since receiving it. "What happens to Bloodhawk if they catch him?" Jacob's expression darkened. "Nothing good." The next morning, Jacob prepared to ride into town alone. "You're staying here," he told Sam firmly. "Lock the doors. Keep the rifle loaded." "But Wallace said everyone—" "I don't care what Wallace said," Jacob snapped, then softened his tone. "Look, son, the less you're involved in this, the better." After his father left, Sam completed his chores with half his attention on the surrounding forest. By midday, the weight of secrets and worry had become unbearable. He needed air, space to think. Walking to the small creek that bordered their property, Sam sat on a flat rock and skipped stones across the water. The peaceful sound of the flowing creek helped calm his churning thoughts. "You throw like a white boy." A voice observed from behind him. Sam whirled around to find Bloodhawk, watching him from the shadow of a cottonwood tree. "My father's at a meeting," Sam blurted out. "With Lieutenant Wallace." Bloodhawk nodded slowly. "I know. My brothers watch the gathering of bluecoats." Sam swallowed hard. "They're bringing more soldiers. They're going to force your people onto the reservation." "They will try," Bloodhawk replied with quiet confidence. "Many have tried before." The warrior approached, then unexpectedly sat beside Sam on the rock. From a pouch, he withdrew a flat stone and skipped it across the water, 7 perfect bounces before it sank. Sam stared in amazement, momentarily forgetting his fear. Bloodhawk offered him another stone. "Wrist like snake," he demonstrated with a fluid motion. "Not arm like bear." Sam tried to copy the movement. His stone skipped 4 times. "Better," Bloodhawk nodded. "You learn quick, like Apache boy." Sam spent an hour by the creek with Bloodhawk, learning more than just stone skipping. The warrior showed him how to identify animal tracks, differentiate between edible and poisonous berries, and listen to the forest's warnings. When a blue jay called sharply, Bloodhawk held up his hand. "Someone comes," he said, rising silently. "Your father returns." Before disappearing into the brush, Bloodhawk pressed a small deerskin pouch into Sam's hand. "For fever," he explained. "Like your mother's medicine." Sam tucked the pouch into his shirt just as Jacob's horse appeared on the path. His father's expression was grim as he dismounted. "Meeting went that bad?" Sam asked. Jacob shook his head. "Wallace has a map of the entire territory. Every water source, every possible camp location. Someone's been helping them." That evening, as Sam prepared for bed, he examined Bloodhawk's gift. Inside the pouch were dried leaves with a strong, bitter scent. A memory surfaced. His mother boiling similar leaves for Old Man Richards when fever struck 3 winters ago. Carefully, Sam added the medicine to his collection of herbs hanging from the kitchen rafters. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor, Miss Abigail Carter, who taught at the small schoolhouse near Juniper Creek. Her wagon rattled up to their homestead just after breakfast. Laden with books and supplies, "Mr. Cooper," she greeted Jacob, pushing a wayward strand of auburn hair back under her bonnet. "I hope you don't mind the intrusion." Jacob removed his hat, suddenly conscious of his unshaven face. Not at all, Miss Carter. Miss Abigail's journal lay open on the wagon seat, leather-bound with brass corners and filled with her precise handwriting. Sam had glimpsed it during his infrequent school lessons. Unlike the other settlers, Miss Abigail documented everything she observed about the territory: plants, animals, weather patterns, and notably, Apache customs gleaned from traders and peaceful encounters. "I brought some books for Samuel," she explained, "since he hasn't been to lessons recently." While Jacob apologized for Sam's absences, citing the demands of the homestead, Miss Abigail caught Sam's eye with a knowing look. "Perhaps Samuel could show me your herb garden," she suggested. "I'm documenting local medicinal plants." Once out of Jacob's earshot, Miss Abigail spoke softly. "I saw you with him, Sam, by the creek yesterday." Sam froze. "I don't know what—" "It's all right," she interrupted. "I've had my own encounters with the Apache. They're not what Lieutenant Wallace claims. You won't tell?" Sam asked anxiously. Miss Abigail shook her head. "But you must be careful. Wallace has spies everywhere." She hesitated. "Is it true? Did you save Bloodhawk from a mountain lion?" Sam nodded reluctantly. "Extraordinary," she murmured, opening her journal to make a quick note. "The Apache have a profound sense of honor. A life debt is sacred to them. He gave me medicine," Sam confessed. "For fevers, like my ma used to make." Miss Abigail's eyes widened. "May I see it?" Inside, Sam showed her the herbs while Jacob repaired Miss Abigail's wagon wheel. She examined the leaves with expert interest. "Remarkable," she said. "This is indeed a potent fever remedy, but difficult to find. The Apache consider it sacred. He said it was like my mother's medicine." Miss Abigail's expression softened. "The Apache observe more than we realize. He must have watched your homestead for some time. Is that bad?" "It's unusual," she replied carefully. "Bloodhawk is respected among his people, not just for his fighting prowess, but for his wisdom. If he's taking an interest in you, Sam, there's a purpose to it." Before leaving, Miss Abigail pulled a book from her wagon. "This might help you understand your new friend better." It was a slim volume titled Customs of the Apache, authored by a Dr. Henderson from back east. "Miss Abigail," Sam asked as she prepared to depart, "have you ever heard them speak?" "The Apache, I mean," she smiled. "A few words only. Enju means thank you. Doya tea is good morning." Sam practiced the words under his breath. After Miss Abigail's departure, Jacob examined the book with suspicion. "What's she playing at, giving you this?" "She just thought I'd find it interesting," Sam said carefully. Jacob grunted. "Miss Carter has too much curiosity for her own good. Wallace already has his eye on her for her sympathetic tendencies." That night, Sam read by candlelight, absorbing details about Apache ceremonies, beliefs, and language. He learned that Bloodhawk's people considered themselves Ndi, the people, and valued courage, honesty, and harmony with nature above all. The next afternoon, Sam ventured to gather kindling in the forest edge, deliberately moving deeper than necessary. He wasn't surprised when Bloodhawk materialized beside him. "Doya tea," Sam attempted. Bloodhawk's eyebrows rose slightly. "Your tongue is clumsy, but your heart speaks well," Sam grinned. "Miss Abigail, our teacher, she knows some Apache words." The red-haired woman who writes in her book, Bloodhawk nodded. "She has honest eyes." Sam gathered his courage. "Can you teach me more words?" Bloodhawk considered this request. "Why does a white boy wish to speak Apache?" "Because," Sam hesitated, unsure himself, "because maybe if we understand each other better, there wouldn't be so much fighting." For the first time, Sam saw something like a smile touch Bloodhawk's stern features. "Shia'ashi," the warrior said, pointing to himself. "It means my friend." The promised military reinforcements arrived with a rumble of wagon wheels and the steady rhythm of marching boots. Sam watched from the hillside as the column of soldiers wound its way toward Juniper Creek, at least 50 men, with supply wagons and even a small brass cannon that glinted in the afternoon sun. "Twice as many as before," Jacob muttered, standing beside his son. Wallace wasn't exaggerating for once. The new outpost took shape with alarming speed. Within 3 days, a wooden stockade surrounded a cluster of canvas tents and rough-hewn buildings. The American flag snapped in the breeze atop a tall pole at the center of the compound, visible for miles in every direction. A deliberate statement of permanent presence. Lieutenant Wallace wasted no time summoning the settlers. This meeting, unlike previous informal gatherings, took place inside the fort's newly constructed headquarters. A large oak desk dominated the room, behind which Wallace stood with Colonel Matthews, a weathered veteran of campaigns against the Comanche. On the wall behind them hung a detailed topographical map of the territory, stretched across a wooden frame. Red pins marked known Apache encampments. Blue pins indicated water sources, hunting grounds, and mountain passes. Sam stared at the map, recognizing landmarks Bloodhawk had pointed out to him. With sinking heart, he realized the red pins accurately identified areas near the Apache camp. Our primary mission, Colonel Matthews announced, is to locate and neutralize Bloodhawk's band of renegades. Intelligence suggests they're operating within this 20-mile radius. He traced a circle on the map. Once we've secured the area, Wallace continued, we'll establish regular patrols. No settler travels alone. No hunting expeditions without military escort. Simmons, a rancher whose property bordered the Coopers, raised his hand. What about our daily work? Can't stop tending fields or cattle just 'cause you say so. Colonel Matthews fixed him with a stern gaze. Would you prefer tending your cattle or attending funerals for scalp neighbors, Mr. Simmons? That silenced the objections, but Jacob kept his eyes on the map, his expression troubled. One more thing, Wallace added. We've received reports of a settler having direct contact with Bloodhawk himself. His gaze swept the room. Such contact, if unreported, constitutes aiding the enemy. Sam felt his father's hand grip his shoulder. Anyone with information is ordered to come forward, Wallace concluded. Dismissed. As the settlers filed out, Wallace called, Cooper. A word. Jacob pushed Sam toward the door. Wait outside, he whispered. Don't wander off. Instead of following his father's instruction, Sam slipped around to the headquarters open window, pressing his back against the wall to listen. Your boy, Wallace was saying. He spends a lot of time in the woods, I hear. Gathering kindling, Jacob replied evenly. That's all. Simmons's eldest boy claims he saw Samuel talking to someone by the creek last week. Someone who wasn't a settler. A pause. Simmons' boy has a wild imagination. Perhaps, Wallace conceded. But I've assigned men to patrol near your property. For your protection, of course. My land, my responsibility, Jacob responded, his tone hardening. Don't need soldiers trampling my crops. This isn't a request, Cooper, Wallace snapped. The patrols begin tomorrow. Sam hurried away from the window as his father's footsteps approached the door. Jacob's face was grim as they mounted their horses for the ride home. They're watching us now, he said, once they were well away from the fort. Wallace suspects something. Sam swallowed hard. What do? We keep our heads down and our mouths shut, Jacob replied. And you? He gave Sam a pointed look. Stay close to the house. No more wandering off. That evening, as Jacob cleaned his rifle by lamplight, Sam pretended to read Miss Abigail's book while wrestling with his conscience. The red pins on Wallace's map haunted him. Bloodhawk's people were in danger, partly because of the friendship he had cultivated with Sam. Pa, he finally said, I need to tell you something. Jacob set down his rifle. I'm listening. Bloodhawk. I've seen him more than just that once. He's been teaching me things, tracking plants, even some words in Apache. Instead of the anger Sam expected, his father's face showed only resigned concern. I figured as much. You're a terrible liar, son. There's more, Sam continued. That map at the fort, it shows where his people are camped. They're going to attack them, Pa. Jacob was silent for a long moment. And what would you have me do? Warn them? That's treason. But they'll kill them, Sam protested. Bloodhawk, the children, everyone. This isn't our fight, Jacob insisted, but doubt shadowed his eyes. The army's looking for any excuse to label us Apache sympathizers. Sam clutched Miss Abigail's book to his chest. Ma always said doing right isn't always the same as following rules. Jacob's expression softened. Your mother had a bigger heart than was safe out here. He sighed deeply. Get some sleep, Sam. Morning comes early. But sleep eluded Sam. As moonlight filtered through the cabin window, he made his decision. Silently dressing, he slipped past his sleeping father and out into the night, taking only a small canteen, a knife, and his mother's compass, a brass instrument with a hinged lid that had guided her family west from Boston years before. The needle trembled in the moonlight as Sam oriented himself toward the mountains where Bloodhawk's people made their camp. He had to warn them, whatever the cost. The forest at night was a different world. Shadows shifted and breathed around Sam as he pushed deeper into unfamiliar territory. Every snapping twig and rustling leaf made his heart jump. The moon cast just enough light to check his mother's compass, but the mountains loomed impossibly vast ahead. This was foolish, he muttered to himself, pausing to catch his breath against a pine trunk. He had no clear idea where the Apache camp was, only a general direction from what he'd seen on Wallace's map. A sound to his right, a deliberate footfall. Sam froze. "You travel like wounded buffalo," a familiar voice commented. Loud enough to wake sleeping spirits. Relief washed over Sam as Bloodhawk stepped from the darkness, but the warrior's expression was severe. "Why are you here, boy?" "The night forest is dangerous. I had to warn you," Sam blurted out. "Lieutenant Wallace has a map marking your camp. They're planning an attack soon." Bloodhawk's face revealed nothing, but his posture tensed. "How did you find this map?" "It's hanging in the fort. I saw it today. Red pins showing where your people camp, blue pins for water and hunting grounds. And you left your father's protection to bring this warning?" Sam nodded, suddenly aware of how reckless his nighttime journey had been. "He doesn't know I'm gone." Bloodhawk studied the boy for a long moment, then gestured for him to follow. "Come, it is not safe here." They moved swiftly through the forest, Bloodhawk occasionally steadying Sam when he stumbled over unseen obstacles. After nearly an hour, they reached a small clearing where 3 other Apache warriors waited with horses. Ishtar, Bloodhawk's cousin, frowned at the sight of Sam. He spoke rapidly in Apache, his tone sharp with concern. Bloodhawk responded calmly, placing a hand on Sam's shoulder. The gesture silenced Ishtar, though his expression remained wary. "We must move quickly," Bloodhawk told Sam. "Can you ride?" Before Sam could answer, a bird call sounded from the forest edge. Not a natural sound, but a signal. The warriors tensed, hands moving to weapons. Another warrior materialized from the shadows, his breathing quick. He spoke urgently to Bloodhawk, gesturing back the way Sam had come. Bloodhawk turned to Sam. "Your father follows your trail with 2 others." Sam's stomach dropped. "My pa, how?" "He is a good tracker," Bloodhawk said with something like respect. "And a concerned father." The warrior who had just arrived untied a small bundle from his waist, moccasins made of deerskin adorned with simple beadwork along the sides. Such footwear was prized by both Apaches and settlers for moving silently across any terrain. "Put these on," Bloodhawk instructed, handing them to Sam. "Your boots leave tracks a blind man could follow." As Sam exchanged his worn leather boots for the moccasins, Bloodhawk conferred quietly with his warriors. Their discussion was tense, with occasional glances towards Sam. Finally, Bloodhawk approached again. "I must warn my people of the soldiers' plan. Ishtar will take you to meet your father." "But I want to help," Sam protested. "You have helped," Bloodhawk replied firmly. "Now you must return to your world before more trouble finds you." Ishtar did not look pleased with his assignment, but he nodded respectfully to Bloodhawk. He motioned for Sam to follow him into the forest, away from the other warriors. As they moved silently through the trees, Sam sensed Ishtar's disapproval. The warrior maintained a careful distance, always watching, never fully turning his back. "Bloodhawk is my friend," Sam said awkwardly. Trying to bridge the silence, Ishtar's expression remained impassive. "And Bloodhawk sees something in you that others do not," he finally replied, his English careful but clear. "For his sake I hope he is right." They had traveled less than a mile when Ishtar suddenly raised his hand, signaling for silence. From ahead came the unmistakable sound of men moving through the forest, not with Apache stealth, but with the deliberate progress of determined searchers. Pa, Sam whispered. Ishtar frowned, listening intently. 3 men, he confirmed. 1 is your father. The others? His expression darkened. Blue coats, Sam's heart sank. Soldiers. But how? The lieutenant has been watching your home, Ishtar explained grimly. Waiting for such a night. What do we do? Ishtar considered for a moment. If the soldiers find you with me, they will kill me and punish you and your father as traitors. Then let me go alone, Sam suggested. I'll say I got lost. At night. With purpose? Ishtar shook his head. They will not believe you. The sound of the search party grew louder. Sam could make out his father's voice calling his name, the worry in it tearing at his heart. Ishtar reached a decision. From his belt, he removed a small leather pouch and pressed it into Sam's hand. Inside was a finely crafted arrowhead, carved from obsidian, attached to a leather cord. A warrior's talisman. Bloodhawk made this for you, Ishtar explained. He said you earned the right to wear it when you faced the mountain lion without fear. Sam stared at the gift, then quickly slipped the cord over his head, tucking the arrowhead beneath his shirt. Now go, Ishtar instructed. I will lead the soldiers away from you. When you hear an owl call 3 times, answer your father. He will find you then. Before Sam could thank him, Ishtar melted into the forest. Moments later, sounds of movement erupted from Sam's right, deliberately loud enough to draw attention. There, a soldier's voice shouted. Movement in those trees. The search party crashed off in pursuit of Ishtar's diversion. Sam waited, heart-pounding, until he heard the promised owl call 3 distinct hoots in the darkness. Pa! He called out, his voice breaking. Pa, I'm here! Jacob Cooper found his son alone, huddled against a tree trunk, claiming he'd gotten lost while sleepwalking, a habit Sam hadn't displayed since his mother's death. The soldiers, chasing shadows through the forest, eventually returned empty-handed and frustrated. Lucky we found you before the Apache did, one soldier muttered, eyeing Sam suspiciously. These hills are crawling with them. The ride home was silent. Sam perched uncomfortably in front of his father on the saddle. Lieutenant Wallace's men flanked them like prison guards rather than protectors. It wasn't until the soldiers departed at the edge of their property, with stern warnings about keeping better track of your boy, that Jacob finally spoke. Inside, he ordered, his voice dangerously calm. The cabin door had barely closed behind them when Jacob exploded. What in God's name were you thinking? Running off in the middle of the night. Into Apache territory? Sam stood his ground. I had to warn him, Pa. They're planning to attack his people. And who do you think you belong with? Jacob demanded. Them or us? Why does it have to be one or the other? Jacob grabbed a clay water pitcher from the table and slammed it down, the crack running through it matching his fraying patience. Because that's the way the world works out here. You've put us both in danger, Sam. Wallace already suspected us of Apache sympathies. Now his men find you wandering the forest at night. Sam touched the hidden arrowhead beneath his shirt. Bloodhawk wouldn't hurt us. He owes me his life. And the others? The ones who don't owe you anything? Jacob ran a hand through his hair. This isn't some adventure from your books. This is life and death. I know that, Sam insisted. That's why I had to warn them. Jacob stared at his son, recognition dawning in his eyes. You're just like your mother. Same stubborn heart, he sighed deeply. Get some sleep. We'll finish this discussion in the morning, but morning brought new troubles. Jacob woke Sam before dawn, his expression grim. Someone's been at the barn. Outside, in the grey pre-dawn light, the damage was evident. The barn door hung awkwardly on broken hinges. Inside, feed sacks had been slashed, grain spilling across the dirt floor. On the barn wall, someone had carved a crude message. Indian lover, Simmons or Turner, Jacob muttered, running his fingers over the jagged letters. Has to be, Sam swallowed hard. Because of me? Because people are afraid and looking for someone to blame. Jacob began sweeping up the scattered grain. Help me clean this mess before the chickens get into it. They worked in silence until a horse's whinny announced a visitor. Jacob grabbed his rifle but lowered it when he recognized Miss Abigail's wagon approaching. The schoolteacher's normally neat appearance was disheveled, her bonnet askew. "Mr. Cooper," she called urgently. "Samuel, are you all right?" Jacob helped her down from the wagon. "We're fine. What brings you out this early?" "There was talk in town," she said, lowering her voice, "about Samuel running off to warn the Apache. Lieutenant Wallace is furious. How did they—" Jacob began, then clenched his jaw. "The soldiers!" Miss Abigail nodded. "They're saying terrible things, Mr. Cooper, that you and Samuel are traitors, that you've been passing information to Blood Hawk." "That's not true," Jacob protested. "I know," she assured him. "But perception often matters more than truth out here." She hesitated. "There's more. Wallace has ordered all children to remain in town under supervision, for protection during the Apache pacification campaign. He wants hostages," Jacob translated grimly, "to ensure settler cooperation. He's scheduled a mandatory town meeting for noon," Miss Abigail continued. "Anyone who doesn't bring their children." She left the implication hanging. Jacob's expression hardened. "Appreciate the warning, Miss Carter. We'll manage." When she'd gone, Jacob turned to Sam. "Pack a bag, only what you can carry on horseback. We're leaving." Sam asked, surprised. "Just for a while," Jacob replied, already gathering supplies. "My brother's place in Colorado. We'll wait there until this blows over." Sam helped prepare, but his thoughts remained with Bloodhawk and the Apache camp. Had his warning been in time? Would they escape the soldiers' attack? As Jacob saddled their horses, a neighbor's wagon appeared on the road. The Millers, a family with 3 young children who farmed several miles east. "Cooper," Miller called, his voice carrying across the yard. "You heading to the meeting?" Jacob tensed but nodded. "Getting ready now?" "Ride with us," Miller offered, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. Safer in numbers with those savages about. Sam noticed Miller's oldest son, staring at their packed saddlebags with suspicion. "Much obliged," Jacob replied carefully, "but we've chores to finish first." "We'll catch up." Miller's gaze lingered on their preparations. "Don't be late." Wallace was clear about consequences. As the wagon pulled away, Jacob cursed under his breath. "Change of plans. They'll report our intentions." He thought quickly. "We'll attend the meeting as if nothing's wrong, then slip away afterward." By mid-morning, they'd hidden their packed supplies in the root cellar and were dressed for town as if it were any ordinary trip. But as they prepared to leave, Jacob suddenly gripped Sam's arm. "Someone's coming. Fast!" The rider appeared over the rise at full gallop. Miss Abigail. Her horse lathered with sweat. "Don't go to town," she gasped, reining in hard. "Wallace arrested 3 men this morning for Apache sympathies. He's searching every wagon, questioning every child. On what authority?" Jacob demanded. "Martial law," Miss Abigail replied grimly. "Colonel Matthews signed the order. Anyone suspected of aiding the Apache will be held without trial." Jacob's face darkened. "Then we're already too late." Dawn brought columns of black smoke rising from the direction of the Turner homestead. Jacob, Sam, and Miss Abigail watched from the hillside behind the Cooper property, their faces grim in the early light. "Apache raid," Jacob murmured. "Wallace pushed them too hard, or someone made it look that way," Miss Abigail suggested quietly. The military response was swift and overwhelming. Cavalry patrols thundered past the Cooper homestead throughout the morning, while settlers gathered at the fort for protection. Jacob kept Sam close, both of them working to fortify their cabin against potential attack from either side. By noon, Lieutenant Wallace himself appeared with 4 soldiers. His uniform was dust-coated, his expression severe as he dismounted. "Cooper," he called. "By order of Colonel Matthews, all settlers are to report to the fort immediately." "My place is here," Jacob replied, continuing to nail boards across a window. Wallace's hand moved to his holstered pistol. "This isn't a request. The Apache burned Turner's place to the ground. 3 dead, including a child," Sam gasped. "He had played with the Turner children at Christmas. How do you know it was Apache?" Miss Abigail challenged, emerging from the cabin. Wallace's eyes narrowed at her presence. "Miss Carter, I wasn't aware you were here, helping neighbors in troubled times," she replied evenly. "Christian duty." Indeed. Wallace's tone suggested otherwise. We found Apache arrows and tracks. Broken Hands Band, not Bloodhawks, though the distinction hardly matters now. It matters a great deal, Miss Abigail countered. Wallace ignored her, focusing on Jacob. A militia's forming. Every able man is expected to join the hunt. Hunt? Sam echoed, earning a sharp look from his father. These savages understand only one language, Wallace confirmed, a disturbing eagerness in his eyes. Colonel Matthews has authorized us to make a decisive statement. From his saddlebag, Wallace withdrew a document bearing an official military seal, orders written on parchment. The corners singed as though recently rescued from a fire. He handed it to Jacob. Report by sunset, Wallace ordered. Both of you. His gaze included Miss Abigail. The boy stays at the fort with the other children. After they departed, Jacob unfolded the orders. His expression darkened as he read. What is it, Pa? Sam asked. Authorization for punitive action against all hostile Apache bands, Jacob translated grimly. No distinction between combatants and others. Miss Abigail took the paper, her hands trembling slightly. This orders the extermination of any Apache found off the reservation. Women and children included. She looked up horrified. This isn't war. It's genocide. Wallace has been waiting for an excuse, Jacob said. Turner's farm gave him one. Sam thought of Bloodhawk's people, the children he'd never met, the elders like Silent Owl. We have to warn them again. How? Jacob challenged. The entire valley's crawling with soldiers. They're watching us specifically. I might know a way, Miss Abigail said quietly. Through Willow Canyon. It's narrow, difficult for horses. The Apache use it sometimes. Jacob stared at her. And you know this how? I've lived here 5 years, Mr. Cooper, she replied with dignity. I make it my business to understand the land and its people. All of them. As they debated their options, hoofbeats approached from the eastern trail, not the military road. Jacob grabbed his rifle, but lowered it when he recognized Simmons riding hard toward their cabin. Cooper! He shouted, reining in his lathered horse. Blood streaked his shirt, and terror etched his features. They hit my place too! Zara's hurt bad. Jacob helped him dismount. Wallace said it was just the Turners. Happened less than an hour ago, Simmons gasped. Different band. They took my boys. Sam's blood ran cold. Took them? 2 Apache grabbed them right out of the root cellar, Simmons confirmed, his voice breaking. Left this. He handed Jacob a broken arrow shaft. Unlike the simple hunting arrows Sam had seen Bloodhawk use, this one was painted with red and black bands, strange symbols Sam didn't recognize. Miss Abigail examined it with a frown. This isn't White Mountain Apache work. How would you know? Simmons demanded. Because I pay attention, she replied sharply. This is Broken Hand's mark. He's not Apache at all, but Yavapai who broke from his tribe years ago. Apache Yavapai, what difference does it make? Simmons cried. They've got my sons! Jacob made a quick decision. Sam, get Miss Abigail's wagon ready. We'll take Sarah to the fort. To Simmons, he added, did they leave a trail? Headed west, toward the high country, Simmons confirmed. Wallace is already organizing the pursuit. As Sam hitched Miss Abigail's horse to her wagon, a realization struck him. The west trail would lead Wallace's men directly toward Bloodhawk's camp, exactly where they'd wanted to go all along. Whether Broken Hand had taken the Simmons boys or not, Bloodhawk's people would bear the blame. It's a trap, he whispered to Miss Abigail when she joined him. For Bloodhawk's people, she nodded grimly. And for your father, too. Once Wallace has all the settlers' men with him, who'll question what really happens in those mountains? They helped load Sarah Simmons into the wagon. The woman was barely conscious, a crude bandage wrapped around her shoulder where an arrow had struck. You drive, Jacob instructed Miss Abigail. Get her to the fort, Doctor. Simmons and I will join Wallace's pursuit. Pa, no! Sam protested. Jacob pulled him aside. I don't have a choice, son. If I refuse, we're marked as traitors for certain. Then I'm coming too. You'll stay at the fort where it's safe, Jacob insisted. Sam stood his ground. If you go, I go. Ma would say the same. Father and son locked eyes in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Jacob relented. Stay close to me. Do exactly as I say." As they mounted up to follow Simmons, Miss Abigail caught Sam's arm. "Be careful," she whispered. "Watch for the signs we discussed from my book." Sam nodded, touching the arrowhead talisman hidden beneath his shirt. Somehow he knew he would see Bloodhawk again before this day ended. Wallace's militia formed a ragged column, 20 settlers alongside 30 soldiers, all mounted and armed for war rather than rescue. Sam rode behind his father, studying the grim faces of neighbors he'd known his entire life. Fear and anger had transformed them into strangers. "Remember," Wallace instructed as they entered the foothills, "these savages understand only force. Any Apache encountered is presumed hostile." Jacob's shoulders tensed at these words, but he remained silent. Several hours into the difficult terrain, Wallace divided their force. "Simmons, Cooper, Jenkins, you 3 come with my detachment," he ordered. "We'll follow the main trail. Lieutenant Davis will lead the second group along the ridge." They pressed deeper into Apache territory as afternoon shadows lengthened across the canyon walls. Sam noticed his father studying the trail with increasing suspicion. "These tracks are wrong," Jacob finally murmured to him. "Too obvious. No Apache would leave such clear signs unless—" A rifle shot cracked from the cliffs above, cutting off his words. A soldier at the column's front toppled from his saddle. "Ambush!" Wallace shouted as more shots rang out. Chaos erupted. Horses reared in panic, while men scrambled for cover among boulders. Sam found himself pulled roughly from his saddle by his father, both of them diving behind a fallen tree as bullets splintered bark around them. "Stay down," Jacob ordered, returning fire toward the ridge, where muzzle flashes betrayed the attackers' positions. The firefight lasted less than 5 minutes before an eerie silence fell. Wallace crouched nearby, blood streaming from a gash across his cheek. "Report!" he called. "3 dead, sir," a corporal answered. "Jenkins and 2 of ours." "The bastards are falling back," another soldier observed. "Shall we pursue?" Wallace nodded grimly. "Cooper Simmons, with me. The rest secure this position." Jacob hesitated. "My son stays here," Wallace finished. "Under guard." Before Sam could protest, his father pressed his hunting knife into his hand, a sturdy blade with a bone handle worn smooth by years of use. "Stay alert," Jacob whispered. "Whatever happens, be ready." The pursuit party disappeared into the trees, leaving Sam with 2 young soldiers who regarded him with open suspicion. One fingered his rifle nervously while the other bound the wounds of a fallen comrade. "Your pa's mighty, familiar with Apache tactics," the first soldier remarked casually. "Wonder how he knows so much." Sam said nothing, clutching his father's knife beneath his jacket. An hour passed with no sign of the pursuit party. The shadows grew longer, the wounded man's breathing more labored. Finally, a shout from the canyon rim announced riders approaching, but it wasn't Wallace's group that emerged from the trail. Lieutenant Davis's detachment returned, their numbers diminished, their expressions haunted. "Where's Wallace?" the corporal demanded. "Walked into a trap," Davis replied grimly. "We heard the fighting but couldn't reach them in time." Sam's heart pounded. "My father," Davis shook his head, "taken along with Wallace and Simmons. Broken Hand's band ambushed them in the narrow pass." "You sure it was Broken Hand?" one soldier asked. "We found this." Davis held up a distinctive lance decorated with red and black feathers. Broken Hand's personal weapon, recognized by every settler in the territory. "What about the others?" the corporal asked. 3 more dead, Davis confirmed. "We need to return to the fort, regroup with proper forces." "What about my pa?" Sam demanded, finding his voice. Davis's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, boy. If they're still alive, they won't be for long. Apache don't take prisoners except for slow torture." "That's not true," Sam protested. "Bloodhawk's people aren't like that." A dangerous silence fell. Davis studied him with narrowed eyes. "And how would you know what Bloodhawk's people are like?" The corporal intervened. "He's just a kid, Lieutenant." Scared for his father, Davis nodded slowly but kept his gaze on Sam. "We leave now, before we lose the light." As they prepared to depart, Sam's mind raced. His father was alive but captured, and the soldiers were abandoning the pursuit until morning. By then it would be too late. When no one was watching, Sam slipped away from the group. Instead of mounting his horse, he crept toward the trail where the pursuit party had disappeared. The soldiers, busy with their wounded, didn't immediately notice his absence. Sam followed the signs his father had taught him to recognize: broken twigs, displaced stones, faint impressions in the sandy soil. As darkness fell, he moved more by instinct than sight, guided by the knowledge that each step brought him closer to his father. A rustling sound ahead made him freeze. Sam crouched behind a boulder, Jacob's knife clutched in sweating hands. A shadowy figure emerged from the brush, moving with Apache stealth. Sam held his breath, pressing against the cold stone. The figure paused, head tilting as if sensing his presence. Then a familiar voice spoke softly. "You breathe too loud, white boy." Relief flooded Sam as Ishtar stepped into a shaft of moonlight. The warrior's expression was grim. "They have taken your father," he stated. "I have to find him," Sam insisted. "Please help me." Ishtar considered this request. "Bloodhawk anticipated this. He sent me to find you. Then he knows about my father." "He knows everything that happens in these mountains," Ishtar replied. "But there is danger you do not understand. The one called Broken Hand is Bloodhawk's enemy. He takes your father and the Bluecoat leader to draw Bloodhawk into the open. But why?" "Power," Ishtar explained simply. "If Broken Hand kills Bloodhawk, he claims leadership of all Apache in these mountains. If he delivers Bloodhawk to the Bluecoats, they will reward him with weapons and territory." Sam processed this information. "So my father is bait in a trap," Ishtar nodded solemnly. "A trap that Bloodhawk intends to spring." Ishtar led Sam through moonlit trails no settler had ever traveled. They moved in silence, the Apache warrior occasionally raising his hand to signal caution or indicate a change in direction. Despite his exhaustion, Sam matched Ishtar's pace, driven by fear for his father's life. Near midnight, they reached a sheltered ravine, where Bloodhawk waited with 3 other warriors. His face was painted with red and black stripes, war colors that transformed his features into something otherworldly and fearsome. "You should not be here," he told Sam, though his tone held no rebuke. "The mountains are dangerous tonight." "My father lives," Bloodhawk confirmed. "For now. Broken Hand holds him with the soldier chief at his camp near Three Fingers Rock. We have to rescue them," Sam insisted. The Apache warriors exchanged glances. One spoke rapidly in their language, gesturing toward the northern ridges. Bloodhawk nodded. "Sentries have been posted along all approaches. Many warriors guard the prisoners. Then what's your plan?" Sam asked. Instead of answering, Bloodhawk reached into a pouch at his belt. He withdrew something Sam had never seen before: a headband of red cloth adorned with 3 hawk feathers and intricate beadwork that seemed to glow in the moonlight. "This is a warrior's first coup band," Bloodhawk explained, holding it with evident reverence. "I earned it at 14 summers when I faced my first battle against the Navajo." Sam stared at the beautiful craftsmanship. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because tonight you must become a warrior." Bloodhawk held the band toward Sam. "To save your father, we must enter Broken Hand's camp unseen. A frontal attack would fail." "I don't understand," Sam admitted. "2 Apache warriors cannot approach without challenge," Ishtar explained. "But a prisoner and his captor," understanding dawned. "You want me to pretend to be your prisoner?" Bloodhawk nodded. "Broken Hand knows of the white boy who saved my life. He will expect me to come for you. Instead, we bring you to him," Ishtar added. "A gift to earn his trust." Sam swallowed hard. "And once we're inside?" "We free your father and the soldier chief during the victory celebration," Bloodhawk explained. "Broken Hand's pride will demand he display his prize before killing me." "It's too dangerous," Sam protested. "And they'll recognize you immediately." Bloodhawk's expression remained confident. "Not as you imagine. Broken Hand has never faced me directly. He knows my reputation, not my face." From another pouch, Bloodhawk produced a small clay pot filled with dark pigment. With practiced movements, he began applying additional markings to his skin, distinctive patterns different from his usual warrior symbols. "Tonight, I am not Bloodhawk," he explained. "I am Walking Bear of the Cibecue Band. bringing Broken Hand a gift he cannot refuse. Sam watched in fascination as the transformation progressed. When finished, Bloodhawk appeared utterly changed. His bearing, the set of his features, even the way he held his shoulders altered to become a different man entirely. "What if Broken Hand doesn't believe you?" Sam asked. "Then we die," Ishtar stated matter-of-factly. "But my father will die regardless if we do nothing," Bloodhawk finished. "This way we have a chance." The other warriors withdrew into the shadows, leaving the three of them alone. Bloodhawk placed his hands on Sam's shoulders, his expression solemn. "You have shown courage before," he said. "Tonight demands more. You must appear defeated, broken in spirit. A trophy worthy of Broken Hand's attention." "I can do it," Sam assured him, though fear churned in his stomach. "There is more," Bloodhawk continued. "If our plan fails, if we are discovered," he hesitated. "You must be prepared to act on your own." Ishtar produced a small knife, its blade no longer than Sam's finger. "Ye hide this where they will not search," he instructed. "It may be your only chance." As Sam concealed the small weapon in his boot, Bloodhawk removed the obsidian arrowhead talisman from around Sam's neck. "This would reveal our connection," he explained. "When the time comes, remember, you are stronger than you appear." They waited until the moon reached its zenith before beginning the final approach to Broken Hand's camp. Sam's wrists were bound loosely with rawhide strips, secure-looking but designed to release with a sharp tug. "Remember," Bloodhawk murmured as they prepared to move out, "watch my signals. When I touch my left ear, be ready. When I raise my hand to the sky, drop to the ground immediately." "What about my father?" Sam asked. "How will he know I'm not really captured?" "Trust him to understand when the moment comes," Bloodhawk replied. "A father knows his son's heart." As they moved toward enemy territory, Sam thought of Jacob's last words to him. Whatever happens, be ready. He would not fail his father now. The plan was simple but dangerous. Enter Broken Hand's camp under false pretenses. Locate the prisoners, create a diversion, and escape in the confusion. Success depended entirely on their deception, holding long enough to free Jacob and Wallace. "One more thing," Bloodhawk said as they approached the perimeter guards. "Whatever happens in there, whatever you see or hear, show no recognition when you see your father. Our lives depend on your performance." Sam nodded grimly. "I'm ready." Bloodhawk gripped his bound arms roughly, assuming the role of captor. "Then let us meet this Broken Hand," he growled, giving Sam a convincing shove forward. "And see if he is worthy of his name." As dawn broke over the mountains, Ishtar returned alone to the White Mountain Apache camp. The news he carried sent ripples of concern through the gathered warriors and elders. Bloodhawk had gone to confront Broken Hand, with only a white boy as his ally. Chief Grey Wolf sat outside his dwelling, his weathered face revealing nothing as he listened to Ishtar's report. When the young warrior finished, a heavy silence fell over the council circle. "My son chooses strange paths," Grey Wolf finally commented, his voice betraying no emotion. "Mako," the skeptical war chief, struck his spear against the ground. "He risks himself for white settlers. This dishonors our people." "Does it?" Grey Wolf asked mildly. "Or does he honor the oldest of our laws, the life debt?" "The boy saved him from a mountain lion," Mako conceded reluctantly. "But that debt does not extend to the father." Silent Owl, who had been watching the exchange through half-lidded eyes, suddenly straightened. In his gnarled hands, he held a strand of horsehair twisted into an intricate pattern, a memory string used to recall visions and prophecies. Each knot represented a different image from his dreams. "The boy and Bloodhawk are bound by more than a life debt," the medicine man declared. "The spirits have shown me their paths crossing and rejoining like braided rivers." Grey Wolf considered this. "What do the spirits counsel now?" Silent Owl's fingers moved to a particular knot in the string. "That Bloodhawk does not stand alone in this test. The tribe must choose, honor his courage or abandon him to his fate. Broken Hand has 30 warriors," Ishtar reminded them, "and holds 2 prisoners already." Grey Wolf closed his eyes briefly, seeming to age years in moments. When he opened them again, his decision was made. Rising slowly, he entered his dwelling and emerged carrying an object wrapped in ancient buckskin. The council fell silent as he unwrapped the bundle, revealing a ceremonial staff adorned with eagle feathers and copper bangles that chimed softly in the morning breeze. "The chief's staff has passed through 7 generations," Grey Wolf announced, his voice gaining strength, given to the first Grey Wolf by the great Chief Mungus Coloradus himself. "It has called our people to war, to peace, to great journeys." He raised it above his head. "Today it calls us to honor." Mako stepped forward, his expression troubled. "The bluecoats are many. If we oppose them directly, we oppose no one directly," Grey Wolf interrupted. "We simply stand with my son." "And the settlers?" another warrior asked. "They burn our hunting grounds, poison our waters." Grey Wolf's gaze swept the circle. "The boy who saved my son is a settler. His father sheltered him despite the danger. Are all white eyes our enemies, or only those who choose to be?" Silent Owl nodded in approval. The stones of prophecy showed this moment would come. A choosing time. Grey Wolf struck the chief's staff against the earth 3 times, the traditional call to action. "I will lead this myself," he declared. 15 warriors, our strongest and swiftest. We ride not to war, but to witness. If Bloodhawk succeeds through courage and wisdom, we honor him. If he falls to treachery, we avenge him. Ishtar knelt before the chief. "When do we ride?" "Immediately," Grey Wolf replied, handing the staff to a young warrior. "Alert the camp. Women, children, and elders must move to the high valleys until our return." As the council dispersed to prepare, Silent Owl approached Grey Wolf privately. "You have seen something in your dreams as well," the medicine man observed. "Something you have not shared," Grey Wolf nodded slowly. 3 nights ago, I dreamed of standing on White Mountain's peak. Below me, a great storm raged, lightning striking both Apache and settler camps. But in one place, the lightning formed a bridge between 2 shelters, one Apache, one white. And across this bridge, small figures moved, carrying flame from one dwelling to another, preserving the fire when all else was dark. Silent Owl's eyes widened. "The dream of the 7th generation. Your grandfather spoke of this. He said a time would come when our people's survival would depend not on fighting the white eyes, but on finding those among them who could see with clear vision." Grey Wolf confirmed. "I believe this boy is one such bridge, and if you are wrong..." Grey Wolf touched the worn copper medallion at his chest. "Then I will have failed my son and my people, but if I am right, the people will survive," Silent Owl finished. "Even as all changes around us." Within the hour, 15 of the tribe's finest warriors were mounted and armed. Grey Wolf, wearing full ceremonial regalia, with the chief's staff secured to his back, led them toward Broken Hand's territory. Linkta, who spoke for the women, approached as they prepared to depart. "The mothers have a request," she announced. "If you find the settler children taken by Broken Hand, bring them safely home as well." Grey Wolf nodded solemnly. "All children are sacred, regardless of their birth. We will not forget." As they rode out, other tribal members lined the path, touching the warriors' legs for luck and strength. The children watched wide-eyed, too young to understand fully, but old enough to sense the gravity of the moment. "Will they return?" one small boy asked his mother. "They ride with the chief's staff," she replied, her voice certain, despite the worry in her eyes. "The ancestors themselves watch over them." Grey Wolf set a punishing pace, pushing their horses to the limit as they followed Ishtar's guidance toward Broken Hand's camp. His weathered face was set in lines of determination, his thoughts fixed on the son, who had always walked the more difficult path. "Bloodhawk sees what others cannot," he murmured to himself. "May his vision prove true today." Broken Hand's camp sprawled across a rocky plateau beneath Three Fingers Rock, 3 towering stone spires that cast long shadows in the rising sun. Unlike the orderly arrangement of Bloodhawk's people, this encampment showed no clear organization. Tents and crude shelters stood at random intervals, with sentries posted haphazardly along the perimeter. "Keep your head down," Bloodhawk muttered as they approached the first guards. Remember, you are defeated, afraid. Sam hunched his shoulders and fixed his gaze on the ground, heart hammering against his ribs. The guards, painted warriors with expressions as hard as the surrounding stone, leveled their weapons at them. Bloodhawk spoke in the Apache language, his voice deeper than usual, his gestures animated, but different from his normal movements. The performance was flawless. Even Sam almost believed this was a different person. The guards examined Sam with predatory interest before escorting them into camp. Warriors paused in their activities to stare as the procession passed. Women whispered behind their hands. Children pointed openly. At the camp center stood a large hide tent decorated with scalps and animal skulls. Before it sat Broken Hand himself, a massive man with a twisted right arm that ended in a permanently clenched fist. His face bore a web of ritual scars, and around his neck hung a necklace of human finger bones that clicked together when he moved. "Who comes to Broken Hand's camp?" he demanded in halting English. Bloodhawk answered in Apache, gesturing frequently towards Sam, another warrior. Translated, "Walking Bear of Cybecue Band brings gift for mighty Broken. And white boy who runs with Bloodhawks." "Shadow." Broken Hand's eyes narrowed with interest. "The boy who killed Mountain Lion?" Bloodhawk nodded, shoving Sam forward roughly. Sam stumbled, falling to his knees before their host, precisely as they had planned. "Where you find him?" Broken Hand asked, more Apache words, more translation, following soldier tracks. "Stupid boy looking for his father?" Broken Hand's scarred face split in a terrible grin. "Father is here!" He barked an order, and two warriors disappeared behind the tent, returning moments later dragging two bound men, Jacob and Lieutenant Wallace. Sam's heart leapt at the sight of his father. Jacob's face was bruised, his shirt torn and bloodied, but his eyes remained alert and defiant. Wallace looked worse, one eye swollen shut, his uniform in tatters. With tremendous effort, Sam maintained his fearful posture, showing no recognition as his father was brought forward. Jacob, however, couldn't contain his reaction. "Sam!" he gasped. "What have you done to my boy?" Broken Hand laughed, a sound like stones grinding together. "Father sees son. Good." He turned to Bloodhawk. "Why, Cybecue warrior, bring this gift. What you want?" Bloodhawk spoke again, his voice carrying just the right mix of deference and pride. The translator relayed, "Walking Bear wishes to join Broken Hand's strong band. Brings gift to prove worth. Knows Bloodhawk searches for this boy." "Bloodhawk," Broken Hand spat on the ground. "Thinks he protects White Mountain people. Soon learns Broken Hand is true Apache chief." Wallace, despite his injuries, found his voice. "Don't believe anything these savages say. They're all the same. Murderers and thieves." Broken Hand struck the lieutenant casually, sending him sprawling. "Bluecoat talks too much." He returned his attention to Bloodhawk. "You stay, eat. Tonight we celebrate new warrior and prisoners." He pointed to the eastern edge of camp. "Other white children there. Put this one with them." Sam's eyes widened involuntarily. The Simmons boys were alive. A guard took Sam's bound arms and led him away. As he passed his father, Jacob whispered urgently, "Whatever you're planning, don't. Get yourself out if you can." Silence. The guard snapped, striking Jacob with a spear shaft. Sam was pushed toward a small hide tent, guarded by a single warrior. Inside, he found the Simmons boys. Thomas, aged 12, and Daniel, barely 8, huddled together on a dirt floor. Their faces were dirty and tear-streaked, but neither appeared seriously harmed. "Sam Cooper?" Thomas whispered in disbelief. "They got you too?" "Sort of," Sam replied quietly, checking that the guard remained outside. "I'm here to help. My friend and I are going to get all of you out tonight." Daniel's eyes widened. "You came on purpose?" "You're crazy." "Maybe," Sam admitted, working his hands free of the loosely tied bindings. "How are you both? Are you hurt?" "Scared more than hurt," Thomas answered. "They killed Pa, didn't they?" "No," Sam assured him. "Your pa's alive. He's back at the fort with your ma." Relief washed over the boys' faces. "Listen carefully," Sam continued, keeping his voice low. "Tonight, when the celebration starts, be ready to move fast. My friend will create a distraction. When it happens, run for the south trail, the one that leads down toward the stream." "Who's your friend?" Thomas asked skeptically. Sam hesitated. Someone you wouldn't expect. Throughout the day, Sam watched through the tent flap as Broken Hand's warriors prepared for the evening celebration. A large fire pit was dug in the center of camp, and hunters returned with deer carcasses for roasting. Clay pots of a fermented drink were brought out and set near Broken Hand's tent. Jacob and Wallace remained tied to a post in full sun, occasionally given water but otherwise ignored. Bloodhawk had been accepted into the camp with surprising ease, helping with preparations while carefully observing everything. Several times he passed near the children's tent, never acknowledging Sam, but positioning himself to whisper updates. "Grey Wolf comes," he murmured during one such pass. "Many warriors. We must move before sunset." As dusk approached, a warrior brought the prisoners, including Sam and the Simmons boys, to the central fire. Jacob's face showed momentary relief at seeing Sam unharmed, quickly masked when Sam gave him the slightest headshake. The celebration began with dancing and chanting. Broken Hand, now adorned with additional trophies and paint, presided from an elevated seat, a crude throne constructed of salvaged wagon parts and animal hides. Bloodhawk sat among the newer warriors, watching carefully as the fermented drink flowed freely. As darkness fell, Broken Hand called for silence. Rising unsteadily, he announced, "Tonight we celebrate victory. Tomorrow, Bloodhawk comes seeking boy. Finds only death." The assembled warriors cheered. Broken Hand gestured toward Jacob and Wallace. "First, we send message to Bluecoats. One prisoner dies tonight. One takes message tomorrow. A warrior approached with a stone knife." Broken Hand pointed to Jacob. "This one first. Or dies before sun." Sam tensed, ready to reveal his hidden knife, but Bloodhawk was faster. Rising to his feet, he called out in Apache, gesturing emphatically. The camp fell silent, warriors looking between him and Broken Hand in confusion. The moment of truth had arrived. The translator hesitated before conveying Bloodhawk's words. "Walking Bear says killing at night brings bad spirits. Says prisoner should die at dawn, facing the sun. More honorable." Broken Hand considered this, taking another drink from his clay pot. "Walking Bear knows old ways." "Good," he gestured dismissively. "We wait for dawn." Bloodhawk bowed his head in apparent gratitude, but Sam caught the subtle signal, touching his left ear, that meant their plan was changing. They needed to act before morning. As the celebration continued, Bloodhawk gradually positioned himself closer to where Sam and the other boys sat under guard. When most of the warriors were distracted by a ritual dance, he whispered, "Grey Wolf approaches from the south. Be ready when the owl calls 3 times." Sam nodded imperceptibly, then murmured instructions to the Simmons boys. Thomas listened intently, but Daniel seemed frozen with fear. "I can't," the younger boy whimpered. "I'm scared." Sam gripped his shoulder. "Remember how you climbed Miller's barn last summer when everyone said you couldn't? This is just like that. Be brave for a little longer." Across the fire, Jacob watched this exchange with growing awareness. Though he couldn't hear the words, the intensity of Sam's manner told him something was coming. Subtly, he began working at his bindings, using the post's rough surface to fray the ropes. Wallace, noticing this activity, hissed, "What are you doing, Cooper?" "Getting ready," Jacob murmured. "Something's about to happen. These savages will kill us all," Wallace replied bitterly. "Your boy's presence just speeds the process." Jacob's eyes narrowed. "My boy's presence might be the only reason we're still breathing, Lieutenant." As the moon reached its zenith, Bloodhawk made his move. Rising to fetch more of the fermented drink, he deliberately stumbled against a warrior, spilling liquid onto the ceremonial paint on the man's chest. The warrior leapt up with an angry cry, shoving Bloodhawk backward. Other warriors gathered to watch the confrontation, forming a circle around the two men. Bloodhawk assumed a defensive stance, apologizing profusely in Apache while subtly positioning himself to keep the guards' attention away from the prisoners. Broken Hand called out encouragement, clearly enjoying the prospect of violence. As the circle of onlookers tightened, Bloodhawk reached to his belt, ostensibly for a knife, but instead threw a handful of powder into the central fire. The flames exploded upward in brilliant blue-green light, accompanied by a thunderous cracking sound. Warriors stumbled back in superstitious terror as Bloodhawk shouted, "Now! Run!" Sam was already moving, pulling Daniel up while Thomas followed. They dashed toward the southern edge of camp as chaos erupted around them. Jacob, who had nearly freed himself, gave one final desperate tug and felt his bindings give way. "Cooper!" Wallace shouted as Jacob rose. "Don't leave me here." Despite everything, Jacob couldn't abandon the man. With quick movements, he loosened Wallace's ropes enough for the lieutenant to free himself, then turned to follow his son. Broken Hand's furious roar cut through the confusion. "Walking Bear betrays us! Stop them!" Bloodhawk's disguise was irrelevant now. Drawing his knife, he fought his way towards Sam and the Simmons boys, cutting down 2 warriors who attempted to intercept them. His face paint, streaked with sweat and blood, began to reveal his true identity, Bloodhawk. One of the older warriors cried in recognition. "It is Bloodhawk himself." The camp erupted in even greater chaos. Some warriors charged forward to capture the legendary Apache, while others hung back. Suddenly uncertain about facing such a formidable opponent, Sam and the boys reached the perimeter of the camp, only to find their escape route blocked by 3 guards. Jacob appeared at Sam's side, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, but determination in his eyes. "Stay behind me," he ordered the children, raising a spear he had snatched during the confusion. Before the confrontation could begin, 3 arrows whistled through the night air, striking the guards with deadly precision. From the darkness beyond the camp, mounted warriors emerged, Bloodhawk's people, led by a figure whose authority was unmistakable, even at a distance. "Chief Grey Wolf," Sam breathed. The Apache chief raised a wooden gourd rattle decorated with hawk feathers and deer hooves. As he shook it, the distinctive sound carried across the battlefield, a signal that rippled through both groups of Apache warriors. Bloodhawk fought his way to Sam's side, his breathing heavy but controlled. "My father honors his promise," he said, evident pride in his voice. The 2 Apache factions faced each other across the firelit camp, Broken Hand's followers outnumbering Grey Wolf's, but clearly intimidated by the chief's presence. For a moment, the night hung in perfect balance between violence and restraint. Broken Hand broke the standoff, charging forward with his stone knife raised, directly towards Sam. "The boy dies first." Bloodhawk moved with impossible speed, placing himself between Sam and danger. As the 2 Apache leaders clashed, their battle became the focal point, around which all other actions swirled. "Run!" Jacob shouted, pushing the boys toward the Apache riders. "Get to the chief!" Sam hesitated. "Not without Bloodhawk. Go!" Bloodhawk commanded between parries. "I will follow." Wallace appeared suddenly, clutching a stolen bow. His military bearing had returned despite his injuries. "Cooper, this way!" He pointed toward a narrow gap in the fighting. Jacob gripped Sam's shoulder. "We have to trust them both," he said, indicating Bloodhawk and Grey Wolf. "Now move!" As they raced toward the Apache riders, Sam glanced back to see Bloodhawk and Broken Hand locked in mortal combat. 2 visions of Apache future, one seeking peace, the other endless war. The sight burned into his memory. Bloodhawk's face, illuminated by firelight, set in lines of grim determination as he fought not just for his own life, but for a different path for his people. Grey Wolf's warriors surrounded them, creating a protective circle as they retreated from the camp. The chief himself reached down from his horse, extending a hand towards Sam. "The boy who saved my son," he said in perfect English, surprising them all. "Now my son saves you." The circle is complete. The retreat from Broken Hand's camp became a running battle through moonlit canyons. Grey Wolf's 15 warriors had swelled to nearly 50, scouts and sentries who had joined them along the way. They formed a protective barrier around the rescued prisoners, moving with the coordinated precision of wolves defending their pack. "Where's Bloodhawk?" Sam kept asking, twisting in the saddle he shared with one of the warriors. The chaos of their escape had separated them from the Apache leader. "Still locked in combat with Broken Hand when they fled. He will find his way," Grey Wolf assured him. Though concern shadowed his eyes, they reached a defensible position on high ground as dawn approached, a natural fortress of stone with a commanding view of the surrounding valleys. Below, dust clouds marked the pursuit, broken hands warriors. Diminished but determined, Jacob examined the Simmons boys for injuries while Lieutenant Wallace stood apart, his military bearing at odds with his tattered uniform. The officer watched the Apache warriors with open suspicion, despite their role in his rescue. "This doesn't change anything, Cooper," he muttered when Jacob approached. "They're still hostiles." "They just saved our lives," Jacob pointed out. Wallace shook his head. "Temporary alliance of convenience. Don't be naive." Before Jacob could respond, a warrior called out from the lookout position. All eyes turned to the eastern ridge, where a single figure appeared, silhouetted against the first pale light of dawn. "Bloodhawk," Sam whispered. Recognition immediate despite the distance, the Apache leader descended toward them, moving with the fluid grace that was uniquely his, though his pace suggested injury. As he drew closer, they could see the evidence of his battle. A deep cut across his chest, another on his arm, his war paint smeared with blood and sweat. Grey Wolf stepped forward to meet his son. No words passed between them, only a look of shared understanding before Bloodhawk turned to address them all. "Broken Hand will not follow further," he announced. "His power is broken." "You killed him?" Wallace asked sharply. Bloodhawk shook his head. "I defeated him. In our way, that is enough. Those who followed him out of fear will return to their proper bands. Those who share his hatred," he shrugged, "they are few now." Grey Wolf surveyed the eastern horizon, where the first golden rays of sunlight spilled across the landscape. In this light, the assembled Apache warriors, nearly 500 strong now with the arrival of additional bands during the night, presented an awesome sight. Their weapons gleamed, their faces solemn as they awaited their chief's guidance. From within his ceremonial garments, Grey Wolf withdrew a simple clay pot, sealed with pine resin. Ceremonially breaking the seal, he revealed the contents, a mixture of ochre, crushed herbs, and bare fat, sacred paint reserved for momentous occasions. "My son has shown wisdom equal to his courage," Grey Wolf declared, dipping his finger into the mixture. With deliberate movements, he drew a single line down Bloodhawk's forehead. The mark of continuity. "What has been, what is, what will be, connected by your actions this day." The warriors murmured their approval as Bloodhawk knelt before his father, accepting both the honor and its responsibilities. Lieutenant Wallace watched this ceremony with barely concealed impatience. "Very touching," he remarked to Jacob, "but we need to get back to the fort. Colonel Matthews needs to know what happened here." "And what exactly will you tell him happened?" Jacob asked quietly. Wallace's expression hardened. "That depends on what happens next." As if in answer, Grey Wolf turned toward the prisoners, Jacob, Sam, Wallace, and the Simmons boys. He beckoned them forward. "3 nights ago," the chief began, his English fluent and precise, "I dreamed of this moment. 500 warriors, 1 white officer, 1 settler family. A choosing time." Wallace straightened his tattered uniform. "Chief Grey Wolf, I presume?" "I'm Lieutenant James Wallace, United States Army. I request safe passage for these civilians and myself to Fort Apache." "And if I refuse?" Grey Wolf asked mildly. Wallace's hand moved instinctively to his empty holster. "Then reinforcements will come. Many more soldiers. This doesn't end well for your people." "It never has before," Grey Wolf agreed. "But perhaps today can be different." He gestured toward the eastern horizon. "The sun rises on all of us equally. Its light asks a question. What kind of world will we build in its warmth?" Bloodhawk moved to stand beside his father. "The boy saved my life," he said, indicating Sam. "His father sheltered him despite the risk. Not all white eyes are enemies, and not all Apache are savages," Jacob added with a pointed look at Wallace. "Despite what some would believe," Wallace's jaw tightened. "Isolated exceptions don't change the larger truth." "What larger truth?" Sam challenged, finding his voice. "That people are people, no matter what color their skin is." The lieutenant scowled at him. "You're just a child. You don't understand the complexities." "I understand enough," Sam interrupted. I've seen both sides now. There's good and bad everywhere. Grey Wolf nodded approvingly. From the mouth of the young, wisdom that eludes the old. He approached Wallace directly. Lieutenant, your choices reach beyond this mountain. The path of war leads only to more graves, Apache and white alike. Wallace looked around at the hundreds of warriors surrounding them, then back to the chief. The calculation in his eyes was evident. Even if he returned to the fort, what could he possibly say that wouldn't lead to bloodshed on an unprecedented scale? "What are you proposing?" he asked finally. Grey Wolf gestured to the sun, now fully visible above the eastern ridge. Its light bathed the gathering in golden hues, erasing the shadows that had divided them through the night. "A beginning," the chief answered simply. "Not an ending. Spring came early to the Arizona territory. Green shoots pushed through soil once trampled by cavalry horses, and wildflowers dotted the meadows surrounding the Cooper homestead. 6 months had passed since the confrontation on the mountain. Months of cautious change that few would have believed possible. Sam sat on the newly rebuilt porch, whittling a small wooden figure while his father repaired a harness nearby. The homestead had transformed. The barn expanded, new fencing encircling enlarged fields where crops grew in orderly rows. Most striking was the trading post Jacob had constructed at the property's edge, a simple structure already becoming a gathering place for both settlers and Apache. "Riders coming," Jacob observed, nodding toward the eastern trail. Sam shaded his eyes against the afternoon sun. "It's Miss Abigail's wagon." The schoolteacher wasn't alone. Behind her wagon rode Lieutenant Wallace, now Captain Wallace, his new insignia gleaming against his immaculate uniform. Though still stiff in his manner, the events on the mountain had changed him too, in subtle but significant ways. "Cooper," Wallace greeted as he dismounted. "Samuel," Captain Jacob returned with equal formality. "What brings you out this way?" Wallace removed a folded document from his saddlebag. "The treaty's been approved in Washington. Officially recognized by the territorial governor this morning." He handed the paper to Jacob. "Your contribution is noted." Jacob unfolded the document, scanning its contents with a slight smile. "Never thought I'd see it in writing." "Nor I," Wallace admitted. "First time an Apache band has been granted permanent territory rights without removal to a reservation." He straightened his shoulders. "Colonel Matthews still thinks it's a mistake." "And you, Captain?" Miss Abigail asked, joining them on the porch. Wallace considered his answer carefully. "I think it's unprecedented, which doesn't make it wrong." The sound of approaching hooves turned their attention back to the trail. Bloodhawk appeared, leading a small party of Apache riders. Unlike their previous encounters, he wore minimal war paint, just a single red line down his forehead, the mark of continuity his father had bestowed. "I see the blue coat brings news," Bloodhawk observed. Dismounting with fluid grace, Wallace nodded stiffly. "The treaty is official." For a moment the two men regarded each other, former enemies finding an uneasy common ground. Neither trusted the other fully, yet both had come to recognize the necessity of their alliance. "My father sends this," Bloodhawk said, withdrawing an object wrapped in soft buckskin. "For the place of talking." Jacob unwrapped the package, revealing a ceremonial pipe carved from red stone, its stem adorned with intricate symbols representing both Apache and settler. "A peace pipe," Miss Abigail breathed, her historian's appreciation evident. "More than that," Bloodhawk corrected. "A pipe of truth. Where it is smoked, only honest words may be spoken." Sam watched as his father accepted the gift with appropriate solemnity. The pipe would hang in the center beam of the trading post, a reminder of the fragile understanding being built between two worlds. "There's something else," Wallace announced, his tone shifting to one of professional concern. "Army patrols reported Broken Hand's tracks near the southern border. Small group, maybe 5 warriors." Bloodhawk's expression darkened. "He was warned not to return. Just thought you should know," Wallace said. "We're tracking them, but they're keeping their distance from settlements." The conversation moved to practicalities, boundary markers, trading agreements, patrol schedules. Sam slipped away, returning to his favorite spot by the creek where he had first learned to skip stones the Apache way. He wasn't surprised when Bloodhawk joined him there a short time later. "Your father becomes a bridge builder," the Apache observed. Sam nodded. "The trading post was his idea. Said if people traded goods together, they might eventually trade ideas too." "Wise man," Bloodhawk acknowledged. He sat beside Sam on the creek bank, their reflections rippling side by side in the clear water. "My father says you have earned a place in our stories." "The boy who changed the mountain's heart." Sam felt his cheeks warm with embarrassment. "I just did what seemed right. That," Bloodhawk said simply, "is why the stories will remember you." They sat in companionable silence, watching the creek's journey through the changing landscape. In the distance, Miss Abigail's voice carried faintly as she explained something to Jacob and Wallace, her enthusiasm evident even at this distance. "Will it last?" Sam finally asked, voicing the doubt that had lingered through the winter months. "The peace, I mean." Bloodhawk considered this question with characteristic thoroughness. "Peace is not a thing that is finished," he said finally. "It is like this creek, always moving, always finding its path. Sometimes blocked, sometimes clear, but never the same from one day to another." He picked up a smooth stone, turning it in his fingers before skipping it across the water, 7 perfect bounces. "But some things remain," Bloodhawk continued. "The water, the stones, the mountains. And now the promise between your people and mine." From his belt, Bloodhawk withdrew a small wooden flute, simply carved but beautiful in its craftsmanship. "For you," he said, offering it to Sam. "When you play it, think of all that has happened and all that may yet be." Sam accepted the gift with reverent hands. "I don't know how to play." Bloodhawk's eyes crinkled at the corners, the closest he ever came to smiling. "Then I will teach you. One more skill to carry between our worlds." As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the land, an unlikely music rose above the creek, the sound of an Apache flute played by settler hands, guided by Apache wisdom, creating a melody that belonged to neither world and both. In time, others would join them by the water's edge. Jacob and Wallace, still cautious in each other's company, but finding common purpose. Miss Abigail with her journal, recording this unfolding history. Even Chief Grey Wolf himself would come to sit and listen, his ancient eyes seeing beyond the present moment to possibilities still unfolding. For now, though, it was enough that a boy and a warrior sat side by side, their friendship a small but undeniable proof that the future remained unwritten, open to those brave enough to imagine it differently.